All right, in selecting the skull reference, what you're going to do is you're going to open it up in Canvas. You're going to go here to Files, and once you're in Files, over here on the left you can see Skull References. Open those up, and now I want you to just kind of go through and look, and you can see which one you might want to use. You'll notice that they already have the grid on them with the red lines. There are a variety of different types of skulls. All right, there's in terms of the position in which you see them. All right, I have a bunch of the cow skull, and you know, again, this is going to be a full value reference that you're going to be working from, either vertical or horizontal. So again, you can kind of see that the values are placed in here based on light source as well as the fabric light in the background. So I just want you to kind of go through and look at all of them, and then make a decision. You know, which ones do I want to, which one do I want to work with? So for example, let's just say, let me show you some of the other ones too. I have a bunch of deer skull references in here too that you can use. All right. So, again, it's totally and completely up to you which one you choose to use. So let's say I wanted to go with, with this horizontal. All right, I got a good variety and value. I've got my grid set up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going here to download. Okay, so it's going to download. Wait, I don't want to download multiple files. I want to download a single file. Okay, so file 19. If I open it, okay, so there it is in my project folder. All right, if I click down here, I can go full screen. This will allow me to look at it while I'm drawing it and see a little bit more accurately where the dimensions are and where they need to be when I start to do the sketch. All right, so with part 2, the next step, what you're going to do is you're going to take your watercolor pad. You don't have to tear the paper out. I just did to make it easier for me here. All right, take a piece of the watercolor paper in your pad. It could be the first sheet. I don't know. It's up to you. Then just take a piece of 8.5 by 11 copy paper. Okay, lay it down on there so that you can kind of center it top and bottom. All right, with a little bit of space over on this side. All right, and then what I want you to do with a regular pencil or the H pencil that I gave you in your set, I want you to just carefully outline this horizontal rectangle. Light pencil line. If you go and draw on top of the paper, that's fine. It may not be the easiest thing to do, but you just want to outline the rectangle because this is going to be the compositional size of your project. All the photos are already cropped to this size. Okay? So relative to the size of the paper is what that grid that you saw is going to be. Now, to get the grid, if you don't have a ruler, okay, if you don't have a ruler to measure over half of 11 to make your grid lines, half of 11 is 5.5. So if I have a ruler, I can just make a little tick mark there, a little tick mark at the bottom. Again, you notice I just moved the ruler down. I did not rotate the paper. Okay, so 5.5 is here. Okay, and then this way it's 4.25. Right, I've got 4.25 there, and of course I have at the bottom, I have 4.25. At the bottom, remember, I just moved the ruler down to the bottom and line it up with the paper and mark it at 4.25. Okay, so that gives me all the 4 quadrants, but what it doesn't give me is the diagonals. Okay, so now, if you don't have a ruler and you can't measure out to find the 5.5 and the 4.25 mark, here's what you can do. Take your piece of 8.5 11 copy paper and fold it. Fold it in half this way, and then fold it in half this way. Make sure it's even, of course. Always fold from the middle out. All right, and now if I open that up and I line it up in the tracing that I made, okay, line it up in the tracing, you see how my little hash marks line up with the folds. So if I don't have a ruler, I can then just use the folded paper to mark the 4 areas. And then what I have to do is I need to draw a line that goes across the diagonal from the corners. But if you notice, a 12-inch ruler doesn't reach. So I need to look around and find something that does. So let me try this. It's a little awkward, but you know what? I gotta make do, especially if I'm at home. Obviously, if you're in class, I have long rulers that you can use, but I can see that I lined it up even with the corners. Okay, the corner there. And this line needs to be super, super light. So I'm just going across the edge of the keyboard to the corner. So now all I'm going to work on is drawing the contour line reference that I have here, okay? So I'm just going to flip this back into tablet mode. I'm going to set it up in front of me, okay, this section right there. I've got this wedge, I've got this wedge. So let's see. If I go like this and I look and see where the top portion of that is, and I go like that here, right? This obviously isn't the same size as this, but it doesn't matter. I'm enlarging based on the grid that's present. So if I just come in here like this and I can see that the top part of this portion of the skull is there, I can see that that's about here, and I can put a little mark there, and I can see that it comes over to about there. And I'm going to use my Sketch and Wash pencil now, all right, because we're going to be creating the values with these. Sketch and Wash, as I start to draw, I'm going to lightly, all right? This is a really, really soft graphite, so don't press hard when you start sketching with this pencil, okay? Do not press hard. It's going to make a very dark mark, as you can see. If I'm here in the margin, if I really press lightly, look how dark that mark is. It doesn't look dark, but I barely touched the paper. Because the softness of the graphite, because the fact that it is water soluble, and we're going to be able to wet it and allow it blend like a watercolor, it's very, very soft. So I need to use it very, very lightly. All right, so as I continue with the contour drawing, one suggestion, as you start setting up the information here, just know this, the Sketch and Wash pencil does not erase too well, okay? So what I suggest you do is if you do go into it, don't worry so much about, oh, I made this mark and I can't erase it. Don't worry about it, all right? This is really just kind of about experiencing the Sketch and Wash media. Next thing I would suggest is, I know I established, a little bit of this information here. What I would suggest is look at big shapes, right? In this case, the eye socket shape. So if I look at the eye socket shape, where it is in relationship to what I've got in front of me, I can see that I've got this curved shape right here, this opening, and that's kind of right at the crosshairs in the middle. And it kind of covers these 3 lines like this. And then just over from that, I go to about here. If I look at where this is, I can see that it's up to about this point. All right, here's that other eye socket. I can see that that's here, so it's a little bit below that. Right in this space here. And I just kind of reference that basic shape really lightly. Okay, see, I'm not putting any shading in because I can see that there are highlight edges on the edge of that skull there. So I'm just referencing some of the darks, where it comes in, comes down into this, comes over and up, and there's a little bit of space between that, and then it goes and then kind of meets up here. All right, but you see how light that is. Very, very light. All right, I didn't even draw it as a solid line, especially because there are some areas over here that are pure white. There are details in here that I still need to put in, but for now I just want to continue blocking in. I just want to continue blocking in the basic information. Okay, so that's the direction that I'm going to go from here. Okay, so here's my finished line drawing. Okay, I have everything set up, I have everything established. You see I did reference a little bit of, the contours in the fabric. I referenced a little bit of the shaded areas in the skull itself, but I didn't do any shading yet. Okay, we're going to need to do a little bit of work with the Sketch and Wash pencil so we can kind of figure out the best way to apply the values. What I am going to do now is I'm going to come back in now and I'm going to erase the regular pencil lines that I have, especially over any area that I have bright white. Through here, through there. Okay, if it's shaded, I'm going to be able to cover it, but anywhere that I've got bright white, I need to erase those grid lines. So I'm just using this little eraser stick because it allows me to get in those little detail areas. But you can use a regular old eraser on the back of your pencil. I like the black erasers on these pencils because they don't mar up the paper at all. Okay, so anywhere, like over in here is light, so I need to erase the pencil lines there. This has value, this needs to be erased. Okay, so just erase the grid lines anywhere that there is a light value in the subject. Okay, so take a couple minutes and do that. Definitely up in here in the fabric where it's, even though it's not dark, it's not extremely light. So you also can see that with the softness of the graphite, I don't want my hand to smudge this too much. And when I go to remove the eraser shavings, All right, I am going to do it very, very carefully by picking the paper up and shaking it off that way and using a tissue very, very gently on there so that I can get the eraser shavings off. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out a little bit of how the Sketch and Wash pencil works in order to eventually recreate the values that we see in our reference photo.